Welcome to Practical Witch Talk. I'm your host, Friday Gladheart, and this is Farcical Flights, the episode about broom flights of fancy. I'm relying on you to be the kind of person who likes practical tips delivered with a sprinkle of humor. So sure, this guide is not going to be for everyone, but as they say, there are two types of people in this world: those who can extrapolate from incomplete data. Now, with autumn creeping in like a cat about to knock over your cauldron, stress is bubbling up everywhere. Back to school chaos, holiday gatherings with your evangelical uncle, and that endless drone of election ads. It's enough to make even the most seasoned witch feel frazzled, but fear not. There's no better way to relax, gain some perspective, and get that rush of exhilaration than a quick broom flight. Of course, flying in the 21st century is not without challenges. And this whole episode is about tips to make your next broom ride smoother than a pumpkin spice latte. So the first thing I want to talk about is detection and staying under the radar, literally. You need to leave your phone at home. Not only can location services reveal your altitude, even if your location services are off on your phone, but it makes mid-air selfies disastrous, especially if you accidentally broadcast your flight path on TikTok. So remember, radar usually ignores anything below 400 feet. Stay there to dodge the cold, the clouds, and those unexpected wind slaps. To avoid radar detection, make sure you're not emitting any radio frequencies, GPS signal, cell signal, or anything that might make you look like a UFO to a befuddled air traffic controller, unless you're into spontaneous Area 51 tours, that is. The second thing is about obscuring and invisibility. Being seen but not being seen. Before your flight, program your charms to keep just outside of human awareness, while remaining visible to birds, bats, insects, and fellow broom travelers. Nothing ruins a night like splatting into a bird or bat. And for a pro tip, forget protection spheres. Sure, they might block the wind and radar, but they're so exhausting. More exhausting than running a marathon in stilettos, so save your energy for the Sabbath ritual and the dance at the witch's ball. The third thing I want to talk about is skimming. This is a very important technique. Stick to the hills, the valleys, just above the treetops. When you hit open fields, remember to do that bob along, like bobbing along the bottom of the beautiful briny sea. Not that. I'm sorry I sang. But stick to those hills and valleys. When you have to be in open fields like Nebraska and Kansas before you get to a riparian buffer strip along a river, if you have to cross the field instead of following the river, just do the bob along. Fly in short, quick bursts, dipping low and then skimming the ground. And you get a bonus for flying through a metal barn that can scatter radar. The metal sides scatter the radar, and you can snag some fresh eggs on your way through. So you can be doing some multitasking here mid-flight. The next thing is I want you to mix it up. You need to avoid predictability. AI is getting smarter, and so should you. Launch and land from a variety of locations to keep those nosy radars guessing. And if you're out harvesting lightning, as one does, chew some gum to help with those ear-popping pressure changes. Make sure you bring an insulated glass container for storage, because nothing ruins a night like lightning stored in a plastic baggie. I'm telling you, you think it's safe, you put it in your cloak pocket, you forget about it during the ritual, and then sapow! It's just not good. So what to wear? You need to dress for success and survival. Flight goggles are essential, and yeah, you're going to look like a steampunk aviator, but they'll keep your eyes from watering like the Niagara Falls. As tempting as night vision goggles sound, they're bulky and, again, electronic and detectable. Next, you want to layer up. Sure, we all want to fly sky-clad and have that wind rush through us and just feel at one with nature and at one with the air element, but save that for the warmer Sabbats, like midsummer. For cooler months, go for the thermal gear, wool cloaks, and waterproof outer layers. I have this fantastic, it's like rain jacket material that I had a friend make into the outer lining of my cloak for winter. And it is microfiber, so yeah, it's synthetic, but it's better than plastic because it's breathable and yet waterproof. Friend, a witch sister up in Northern California who likes to kayak in the estuaries. And to do that, she's often in, not the fun kayaks, the ones that seal you in there like a claustrophobic nightmare. But she has a wetsuit, and she wears her wetsuit under her dress and her ritual cloak. It's not for me, but hey, give it a go if you've got one. I usually carry a set of earplugs, and a nice set can block out both high winds and errant wailing banshees, but don't use your earbuds or other electronics. I often, I'm a crone now, so I don't really go much past 25-30 miles an hour ever. so I don't usually need earplugs, but I do really like them if I'm going against the wind. I like to be able to hear a little bit better. The next thing besides what you wear is what you wear on your skin. You're going to want to moisturize. That wind is brutal on skin, so a good lotion high in oil and beeswax is key. If you use flying ointment, some formulas can provide a warming sensation, which can help against the cold. It's fairly temporary. This need to protect the skin is a good argument for the traditional lard and beeswax-based flying ointments, as opposed to all these modern contemporary ones with the DMSO. Those tend to work better to cross the skin barrier to distribute herbs and extracts and potions into you. However, they just don't offer the wind protection and that wonderful silky skin feel you get post-ritual from having a good flying ointment on. The next thing we want to talk about is something everyone is always overlooking, and that is static electricity. Atmospheric electricity is a real hazard, and static shock on landing is the worst. It's like getting pinched by a ghost. So to prevent this, fasten a metal chain onto the brush cap of your broom or to the back end of the shaft. Make sure it's long enough to drag behind you when you're in flight and pull up when you're landing, so that chain, that metal piece, hits the ground first. Don't make it so long it can whip around when you're doing loops, but generally the chain should extend past the brush of your broom by the length from your elbow to your fingertips. And bonus points if you add a metal talisman to the end for extra protection and style points. The next thing I want to talk about is speed. And as I mentioned, I'm a crone, so my days of trying to top 100 are kind of in the past. And I have a broken toe and many other disasters that came from really just speeding around on a broom. And it is fun, don't get me wrong, but try to keep it under 25 miles per hour. It's easier not to deal with the bugs and the wind and the cold and the sound in your ears. And it's so much easier on you and your body. Keep it under 25 unless you like eating bugs or getting beaked by a confused goose. Slow down to a modest 3 or 4 miles per hour as you land. Trust me, nothing ruins your dramatic entrance like tumbling into the ritual circle like a wayward jack-o'-lantern because you could not stick your landing. And remember, you want to stick the landing. You want to look fabulous doing it. It's not just about sticking the landing, it's about style. So I like to practice a few traditional poses like, the graceful swan or the sassy side saddle, or sometimes the triumphant superhero. That seems a little egotistical, but it's fun when you're all adrenaline up from your flight. But then you need to mix things up and create your own signature pose. I know a high priest that uses a pose he calls the Will Riker, after the first officer of Star Trek The Next Generation. It's very similar to the Captain Morgan, with the one knee up. My signature pose is a simple, graceful curtsy. It gives that demure energy that confuses my adversaries. The next thing I want to talk about is getting lost. Know before you go. You need to map your route ahead of time using satellite images or even a little drone reconnaissance. Just remember to practice your flights after sunset. You want to look at nighttime satellite images and try your reconnaissance drone at night. The flights are going to happen after sunset. Obviously, we're not day flyers because none of us want to go to a lab or Area 51. So you'll be flying at night. No, GPS won't help. You're trying to avoid detection, remember? If you've got a trusty familiar like a cat, an owl, a raven, train them to scout ahead and look for obstacles. And, slow yourself down. Slow your roll. Just be sure to bring treats for positive reinforcement for your familiar. Or you might find him sleeping in a treetop instead of giving you the heads up about an incoming flock of geese. Sometimes things do not go as planned, and an emergency landing becomes necessary. When you're scouting out your route, you're going to want to scout out potential landing zones ahead of time, like fields, rooftops, and secluded parks. Definitely avoid golf courses. Again, I speak from experience where I have a lifetime ban on a golf course somewhere in Nebraska. The next thing I want to talk about is broom selection, and really, you'll get a lot of people on TikTok and YouTube and Reels talking about this broom works and this broom doesn't, but nearly any broom is going to work. I try to avoid those with a plastic brush cap. They make your broom really difficult to maneuver. That plastic sheet, that plastic area kind of catches wind, and it's really hard to navigate with them. So opt for something sturdy that's long enough to reach up to your armpit when it's standing, and with room to hook a bag for familiars or for snacks. The next thing I want to talk about is no-fly zones. And people, don't make me give citations out this Samhain, because some areas are simply too risky to fly over. Obviously, an overly lit sports stadium. The suburbs during events that are going to bring the regulars out, such as fireworks displays or a potential meteor shower. And of course, please, this one, I'm talking to you, Morgan. Avoid airports at all costs, unless you want to end up on the 6 o'clock news as a drone sighting. Now, lecture aside, remember to fuel up. Snack on something high energy before your flight. I like to have something high in protein that's got, a few carbs and fats. You never know when you're going to need to dodge a migrating goose. Oh, ran a curious drone. And along with snacking, hydration is very important when you're flying. And a flask of a good herbal tea or an enchanted electrolyte potion can do wonders for your body and your soul. And if it's warm, it doubles as a hand warmer during those cold flights. If you're using essential oils because you have nausea and you're putting a few drops of peppermint oil behind your ears, that really does help with air sickness. And lavender under the nose can keep you calm during those kind of weird turbulent flights or the sketchy flights, but nothing too fragrant. You don't want to be followed by bees, moths, overeager garden gnomes, some dewdrop fairy that followed you along because you smelled like a flower. Just, keep the essential oils minimum. Our flight forecast for the next few Sabbats for the autumn equinox and Samhain and Yule. September's full moon before the autumn equinox means great visibility, but watch out for those migrating geese this time of year. They don't appreciate unexpected company, and you'll encounter them suddenly appearing under you in flight when they lift up to join their skein. So if you're approaching a chevron of geese and you're tempted, as I often am, to join in either as a straggling maverick or as the leader, it really messes them up. So let's just leave them to their migratory business. At Samhain, visibility is going to be perfect. Enjoy the views. Be prepared. Yule's quarter moon might give you some shadowy surprises. So just be prepared. Our final thoughts today is broom flight is a thrilling endeavor, but you need to fly safely, fly smartly, and most importantly, fly for fun. If you spot a coven member who didn't stick the landing, offer them a hand. We've all been there. This has been a production of PracticalWitch.com in association with witchacademy.org. If you'd like more information about witchcraft, real witchcraft, humor may be sprinkled in, but usually aside, please consider joining witchacademy.org. Thank you for joining me, and blessed be.